welcome Megan Sherman, who handles special events and public relations for the New England Newspaper and Press Association. Prior to Megan's position as PR and events coordinator for the New England Newspaper and Press Association, she served as the Boston team manager for 5 Hour Sample LLC, where she managed and mentored a team of over 20 brand ambassadors. Today, she is an integral component to the New England Newspaper and Press Association staff, planning event logistics, contests, annual conventions, promoting and overseeing training seminars, and working with affiliate groups on a daily basis. That was a lot to get out. Please join me in welcoming Megan to our LaSalle community. After, we will have a Q&A session. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the introduction. So like mentioned, my name is Megan Sherman, and I work for the New England Newspaper and Press Association. A little bit of background about myself before I start talking about what I do now. I graduated from Nichols College in 2010, and I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology. Right after graduating college, I decided that I was going to start working for 5 Hour Energy. It's going in and out. Sorry about that, guys. So I started working for 5 Hour Energy in the summer while I applied to grad school, where I was going back to get my master's in psychology, and I was getting my doctorate degree. In the meantime, while I was there, I decided that I really liked marketing and that I didn't want to go back to school, and I was offered a full-time position there. And that's where I started working for 5 Hour, being a Boston team manager. That's where I started doing a lot of event planning, and I did a lot of sponsorships with NASCAR, the Boston Marathon, the 5 Hour nationally, headed the Charles, and I did a lot of local opportunities where we do small events, where we'd go to different offices, Reebok, New Balance, Google, and from that, I knew I wanted to go down the path of event planning, and I started looking for a full-time event planning job. And that's how I ended up at the New England Newspaper and Press Association. So after my presentation's over today, I hope that there's a couple of things that you guys can take away from it. I hope that you guys have a better insight of public relations and event planning in the industry that they're in. I hope that you guys are able to look at both sides of the equation when it comes to having a job, and that there are always going to be things that you like about it and you don't like about it, but that they balance out. I also hope that I can share some of the skills that I've learned and that I have to help you with your profession, and that you guys can have skills that you'll learn. I also have some tips about preparing you guys for the real world, and then once you guys get into the real world, to helping you succeed. And at the end, I will do a Q&A, so please write down any questions that you have for me. A little bit about the company that I currently work for. NEPA has been around since 1930. We've been promoting growth and excellence in the newspaper industry. NEPA represents 450 daily, weekly, and specialty publications. Just use the podium. Sorry, guys. Hello? Okay. I'm just going to stand to the side. Okay. So we serve 450 daily, weekly, and specialty publications in the 6 states of New England. Some of our top services that NEPA does are we have regional advertising we do. We hold conferences, conventions, and trade shows. We have newspaper and staff recognition, and that's done through different contests that NEPA actually puts on, and then 5 of the affiliate groups that I work with, and then we have Lifetime Achievement Awards as well. We have professional development and training seminars that we do throughout the entire year. Some of them NEPA holds, and some of them I hold for internal clients that we have. We have legal advice. We have industry news. We have a newsletter that we put out every 2 weeks that I'm responsible for promoting. And we also have a job site that has jobs throughout England that people put on their editor jobs if they're looking for digital marketing, publishers. They'll be writing assignments on there. These are just some of the top services that we have. On top of that, we do consulting for newspapers. We can do redesigns, and we do ad campaigns for clients that are outside. If you guys want more information, you guys can go to www.nemba.com. So I'm going to talk to you guys about both components of my position at NEMBA. There's the public relations side of it, and then there's the event planning side of it. Each of them themselves have their own responsibilities and roles, but there is a lot of overlap in what I do. So first, we're going to talk about the PR side of it, the public relations side of it. I have internal clients that I work with, which is an internal database that I have of about 1,000 people that are made up of editors, publishers, circulation directors, advertising directors, reporters. I have college students, speakers that have come to trainings that we've had before, the list goes on and on. And those are people that I do things for in-house. And then I also have external clients that will actually come to me and say, we're rebranding our company. If it's, let's say, for example, it's a software company and says, we're rebranding ourselves and we actually have a new program coming out. I want you guys to build a campaign for us. So I have to take care of the press releases, what their rebrand is going to look like, what their new design is going to look like, and then we have to present it to them. The clients that I have internally, we've done that all for. So when it comes to that, it's more that I know what I need to get, what message I'm trying to get across, the direct message it's going to be, if it's a contest that we're doing, what the focus of the contest is, who we're trying to target to have people, nominate people for it, and the winners. And I work as a liaison between NEMBA and the client. When it comes to any responsibility in my job, the client always comes to me if it's being someone externally or someone internally, and then I go and I take care of the situation. So internally, the affiliate groups that I work with on a daily basis are NESNE, which is the New England Society of News Editors. I work with the MNPA, which is the Massachusetts Newspaper Publisher Association, NEFAC, which is the New England First Amendment Coalition. I work with NOAA, the National Operations Association, and the Ad Council. All of these groups are made up with lawyers, editors, publishers, operation directors, advertising directors of the 6 states of New England. These are people that a lot of people of my age haven't necessarily got to interact with on a daily basis and might not actually know people. So I'm very, very fortunate that I've got to know all of these people and know them so well, and that I have such a great level of respect for all of them. On top of all of that, I assist with all of the production of our press releases and promotional material that we put out. Again, that's internally and externally, and that could just go from me sending a press release that might be getting sent to a newspaper, and it can be very, very basic, but I have press releases that I send out that I have to embed video links into. It might be a full-on slideshow. It can be going on about if we have an award that's getting given out. That's going to the actual newspaper, and that's where the newspaper is going to hopefully pick up the press release and put it into the paper for people to learn about. Internally, when I send a press release out, it's getting sent to the target audience we have. So if I'm sending something out to NESNE, their target audience is editors. So I'm going to send it to the editors in the 6 states of New England. I would send it to sub-editors, which are editors of specific categories in the newspaper. So a sports editor, we will have weather editors, news editors, you have investigative reporting editors. So then internally I have a huge target of that. And then also coordinating with promotion for events and publicizing them. So that's on the PR side again, of it being the events that we're actually promoting, that I need to make sure that I'm delivering the message the proper way and to the proper people and publicizing it. That goes into social media. Social media is key in public relations, and it's very, very important, but it's important that you guys are using it the right way. Social media is very, very new. A lot of people still don't know how to use it, so a lot of times it can get used the wrong way. In the newspaper industry, a lot of newspapers aren't necessarily using it the right way, because what they're doing is they're actually taking their #1 stories they have and automatically flowing them into their Twitter account or posting them on their Facebook and things. So instead of people actually going and buying the newspaper, what they're doing now is they're just going to Twitter or going to Facebook, and now they're reading these stories that you should be paying for. But they're doing it because they want to get more followers, but it's not bringing them any more money. So the way that I use social media is pretty much to promote what we're doing, but to draw in people to actually want to pay us. For example, we have a contest going on right now for one of our groups, and the awards are Master Reporter, Master Photographer, and the Rising Star Award. We have the Judy Brown Award and a Copy Editing Award. 2 of these awards are Lifetime Achievement Awards. So that means people that are excellent in the industry can get nominated for them. Some of them are new awards. But for me to promote them on social media, it's free for me to do that. But when people see all of that and they end up nominating some of the awards, it's bringing us money. So I just pretty much say that social media is a platform for anything that you want to do. And you need to stay up to date with social media. So if you have a Twitter page, a Facebook page, a LinkedIn account, if you guys have an Instagram, if you use them for personal, I don't necessarily mix them with business because you can direct the wrong message to people. So if you do have one for your company, you want to keep them separate. If you're going to share a message, that's fine, or if your company puts something up and you want people to see it, but you don't want to post things directly about your company on your personal page or posting something personally on your company page. And that goes into then PR material and the target audience. That when you are using social media and any PR that you're sending out, that you're making sure that it's getting directed to the right people. So that goes into social media. If you're sending out a press release that needs to get sent to a ton of editors, putting it on your personal page wouldn't make that much sense because you probably aren't friends with a ton of editors and you probably don't have people who follow you like that. So you're going to be sending a message that's going to get confusing. So you'd want to use your company page to do that. And then the last big piece of public relations is trade show. I get to do both ends of it again. So I have about 30 vendors that I use myself that come to conferences that we have, come to workshops we have, sponsor different things for us, and I actually get to have all of them come set up. I get to set up meetings for them with all of their clients that they'd like to meet. And it's great because they can meet with 10, 12 clients at one time. A lot of times, if you work for a company and you're in charge of their trade show, you're going to have one client, and that's who you're always going to work for. You're always going to do the same thing. It's going to be setting up for a trade show. You need to set up their booth. You need to set up meetings for them, and it's going to be with a certain amount of clients. I get to do both ends of it, where I'm meeting with 15, 20 clients I have that I'm setting up meetings for all at once, and they all have different target audiences. They all have different messages they're trying to get out, so I can actually see where the pieces fit to the puzzle. The next part we're going to talk about is the event planning piece of my job. And so with event planning, I actually coordinate event details. That goes from conferences, business meetings, employee events, receptions, training workshops, and contests. Can you guys all hear me if I'm not using my mic? Yeah? Okay. So with that, I actually take care of all of this for NEPA. We have NEPA universities that we hold throughout the year. We have a fall conference that we put on every single year, a winter convention that we put on every single year, and that's for NEPA. I then have, again, my 5 affiliate groups that I work with on a daily basis. Each of them have their own training workshops that are done throughout New England. And they actually hold events in-house, and they hold events at different venues throughout the year. And it's awesome because I get to see I get to do so many different things. I plan meetings that are board meeting that might have 20 people at them, and then I also get to plan events that have thousands of people at them. And the pieces of it, it's different every single time I do it. I have a different client that I'm working with, and if I do have the same client that I've done something for before, each time we're doing it, we're changing it, so I'm never getting bored of what I am doing. The event logistics, so I need to execute those. So I actually go and I get to look at venues multiple times a week, get to try different foods when I have catered meetings, putting the catered menu together, event promotion, the registration, the invites, the event decor, and the scheduling deadlines. This is the funnest part of my job that I think that I have, because I get to see all of these things and I have a vision, and then all of these pieces I get to put together of whatever you have as your menu that you're going to be serving. You want it to match the rest of the decor that you have at the event. And the venue, that the venue matches with what you're doing, and with that you have great communication with the person that you're working with at the hotel. And that's one side of it. And then the other side of it is once you've found the venue, you've picked the catering menu, you've picked the event decor, and you've done the room sets, and you know what it needs to look like, then have to just switch your focus to who's actually going to be coming to your event and creating what that's going to look like and what you want the invites to look like. And then you need to look at, okay, who is my target audience? Let's say you're going to be, your target in my sense would be publishers, for example. I'm then going to need to make sure that I am reaching out to all of the publishers. And I want to be doing that. I always send out, people don't believe in paper mail anymore. They like to use email. Paper mail, if it's used correctly, it's still great, and people like getting it. It's on a personal note. So depending who your client is, and depending what it is, you will decide if you want to still send out paper invites or you still want to send out invites. I always send out paper invites still. I do still use email. It's always a great way to get a second follow-up. And then we always send out email notifications to them too. You may want to make sure you have deadlines included in all of those things so you can accurately know how many people are going to be attending your event. And then with all of that, I coordinate speakers, award winners, participants, vendors, travel, and on-site needs. So I had an event this past February that I actually had to coordinate travel for 45 speakers. That meant I had to coordinate all of their travel coming in from trains, if they were driving in, if they were flying in, making sure I had cars ready to pick them up at the airport, the train station. Then once they arrived at the hotel, that their hotels were taken care of, they had reservations on site for as many nights as they needed. If anyone were attending any of our events, they were pre-registered and made sure that we had them as comp guests at our events with dinners that we have. And then on site, making sure that all of their AV needs were taken care of. If they needed PowerPoint, if they needed to have internet, if they needed easels or anything, if they're doing interactive program. And that's a big piece of it too, that if you don't have that communication with all of them, then things can fall apart. So with this side of my job, you need to be very, very organized, and you need to be talking to your target all the time, by email, by phone. They should have your cell phone numbers. You should be following up with them to make sure that all of their needs are taken care of and giving them an itinerary of what it is. And then I also have to make staffing plans for my events to oversee all of the roles I need to be staffed for are actually executed. So my event that I just had this past February is the biggest event that I do all year. Over a 2-day period, I had about 1,500 people at the Boston Park Plaza. And I had 45 speakers, like I mentioned before that. I had 25 trade show vendors at that event. And in that, I had 40 sessions that went on in that 2-day period, 5 sessions going on at the same time. So I had to make sure that I had speakers set up at 5 times, all of their AV needs are taken care of, all of the speakers checked in. If any of their travel got delayed, that I had an alternative plan for them to get there. Hotels were taken care of. If they had to have cars picking them up, getting them to the hotel, that was all set. And then on top of that, I planned 2 luncheons that have roughly 500 people at them, 2 awards dinners, 2 cocktail receptions, and then a breakfast. So there's many, many pieces to my puzzle and much overlap with what I do. And it's something that you need to make sure that you always have timelines for, that everything's laid out and you know exactly what you're trying to do and when you need to do it, and that you're talking to people about it. I get to do all of this. I work at a small organization, that's why. A lot of people get to do a piece of this. Their piece of this might be doing travel arrangements. Their piece of it might be picking out event decor. I get to do all of it, which is great, and I've been able to learn a lot more from it. Looking at the good and the bad. With any job that you have, you're going to love things about it, you're going to hate things about it. There's going to be things that you wished you didn't have to do that you do have to do. But it's always going to happen. And you want to just make sure that there's a balance of what you do like and what you don't like, but also the things you don't like, they're going to make you a better person in the end. So I specifically talked about my job currently that I have right now. I have a lot of freedom in my position, and I can be very, very creative because I have clients that I work with all the time, and I know exactly what they want. So I can start doing things now months before. So when it does get to be time to present to them what I have coming up, I already know what they want, and it's already done. But I also get to meet new clients that sometimes can be, they can say, this is what I want, I just need you to find me a place, or they want me to come up with it, a whole proposal in myself. I just actually did a proposal for NEFAC, which is the First Amendment Coalition. for a 3-day event that they have that they used to use an outside caterer for, and they actually told me that they wanted me to do it for them. So I just did a proposal. I had a budget that I had to meet. I had to plan 2 dinners for them, 2 lunches for them, 2 breakfasts, and do travel and everything. And part of it for me was great. I knew how much money that they used to spend, and I want to save the money this year too, and I was able to save them $5,000. Another great piece of it is that I get to work with internal clients and external clients. Again, since I have my internal database and I have clients that come from the outside. If you work at an ad agency, you might have one client that you work with and you do grading for, you're doing press releases for all the time. Or if you're working for a company, you might do all of their internal PR. And I get to do both, see both sides of it and get to see which I like a bit more. I get to work with a variety of colleagues and clients, which is fun. You're always meeting new people. It's great for networking. The relationships that I've been able to build with people and the confidence that I have is great. Again, I work with, on a daily basis, editors and publishers of big newspapers throughout New England. Something that not many people at my age can say that they do. Dan Ray, who is a radio broadcaster for CBS, I meet with him 4 times a month. I sit there and I have lunch with him. That's not something that most people can say they do. Many people, the Boston Globe, the Boston Herald, the Hartford Courant, the Burlington Free Press, those are some really big papers, Providence Business News, that I talk to these people on the phone, eat lunch with them. They've called me up and asked me for input about different things that I have going on. It's great for networking, but it's also great that I know that these people trust what I do, have faith in what I do, and they take my opinion. I get to plan such a wide scale of events, from, like I said, board meetings that have 20 people at them to events that have 1,000 people at them. So I'm always doing something different so you don't get bored of what you're doing. And I've learned so much about my industry and very fast because of working in a small organization, which I do have on the side of it being a downfall, but in the end, it's made me learn a lot faster what I do and get further in my career. So I do have on the downside working in a small organization. That isn't a bad thing. You have better communication skills, you're more involved with the people that you're working with. But what it does mean is that each person's role and the responsibilities that they carry are that much more important. And if there's one flaw, that it can domino effect and then it can all fall apart. So it means that you need to execute what you're doing that much better than you normally would. A downside that I also have is growing up in such a technology-focused generation, I only had a basic knowledge about the newspaper industry when I started at my position that I'm at. And that's just because of the generation that we're in now. Everything's so technology-focused that, how many of you guys read newspapers? Like our newspaper? So, not many of you. That's not something that I used to do either. It's something, though, that I do now, and then I make sure that I consciously am reading because of the industry that I work in. And they're so interesting. There's so many things that I've learned about newspapers that I didn't know about and all of the different roles in making a newspaper. So that's one thing, that research is everything. So when I started my position, I had to research. There was so much that I didn't even know where I needed to begin of the 6 states of New England, what newspapers belong to what's a daily, what's a weekly, what's a specialty publication. So research is everything. And when you guys are starting to interview or looking to research for a company, make sure that you guys do background on that. And then the last thing I have that is a downfall is I'm constantly brushing up on my writing skills, which is great that I'm doing that. But I always have to remember that when I'm delivering something to a client, that each client's different, so the way that I deliver the message has to be delivered differently. So I'm always brushing up on what my client, what they want, how I need to bring it to them. So here are some skills for success. You have personal skills and then you have professional skills. So personal skills, you need to be very personable. These are, in general, skills that will be very, very helpful, but some of these are directed to doing PR and event planning. You need to be very personable, very outgoing, and very creative. If you're shy and you don't say much in things, it's not going to help because people can never understand or know what you're thinking. So you want to be very personal and very, very outgoing. Have a lot of energy. Working under pressure is a big
meet. I have an event going on, if I have a breakfast that's starting at 8 in the morning, and something didn't go right, I have to make sure it gets done before I go home. And things are never going to go right. So you always need to have time planned in and have a backup plan. Communication, that is key. Communication with the people that work in your office, communication with the client you have, those are great, because if there's a lapse of communication there, and you think someone's doing one thing and they think they're doing something else, and then they bring it to you and it's not what you want, you have to go back and do all the steps again. But also, if you've missed a deadline, it then can have the domino effect of what you're doing. Professionally, you always want to be professional. You need to be organized, very organized. I have binders and folders that people look at me and think that I'm crazy because I have everything sectioned out to, if I have like 9 lunches going on at one event, that each of them are sectioned out, and then in those folders I have what my menu is, I have what my event decor is, I have who my staff is specifically for that event, I have a registration list for each of those events, what signs need to be where, when people need to be where, and it helps so much, and people look at me like I'm crazy, but I always know what's going on. And then God forbid something happened to me and I couldn't get somewhere one day, someone could literally pick up my folder and know exactly what they need to get done and how to do it without me being there. Teamwork and collaboration. Those are two different things. You need to have the ability to be able to work in a team. That can mean working with someone and getting something done. But the collaboration piece of it is that you actually can take all of your ideas and make them into one thing. And that you're not closed-minded into, yes, I can work in a team if I have to with 4 people, but actually that you can accept, maybe my idea isn't the best idea, or maybe this person's idea is the best idea, but why don't we take a piece of this and a piece of this and turn it into one? Creative thinking. Always thinking creatively, always thinking out of the box. The person that had my position before me here was great at what she did, but it was just a highway, a straight highway in front of her. It was the same thing she did over and over and over. People loved her, but there was no creativity into it. One thing is, so all the board meetings we used to have, she always used to serve cold lunches at. They were great, all different places, all different kinds of foods. When I started though, who wants to eat a cold sandwich when it's snowing outside? No one does. People get tired of eating cold cuts all the time, eating potato salad. Potato salad and sandwiches are one big thing that people are always eating when they go to lunches. They're great in the summertime, but in the wintertime, people don't want to eat that stuff. They're freezing from coming outside. They want to be able to eat something that's hot. I started incorporating hot lunches into my menus whenever I'd have board meetings, getting fun with doing things like that. And I've gotten so much praise from that, and people love that I'm always doing different things, and every time they come to a board meeting, they're never getting the same menu. And they like that, because it's a treat for them when they're out of the office for a day, and they want to actually be able to enjoy their lunch and not say, oh, I'm going to eat another turkey sandwich that I just had a month ago. Knowledge in your field and knowledge in your role are very, very important. So knowledge in your field, you want to make sure that you know what your goal is, what you should be doing, how you need to get it done, and you understand your position that you have at a company. And that doesn't always mean that what it says on paper is going to be exactly what you're going to be doing, so make sure you ask questions when you do start the position so you understand what it is. You need to be competitive, but in a friendly way. It's always good to stay on your toes and be thinking of new things to be doing and trying to get ahead. And I always, if I did something great once, I wanted to do even better the next time, so I'm competitive with myself that I'm always beating what I just did before. Writing skills, you need to have anything that you do. Computer programs, Excel if you use that, Publisher, different Photoshop programs. There's everything that you need. And then multitasking. Multitasking in PR and event planning is a big, big thing that I always have 1,000 things going on. Right now I'm in the midst of starting to plan for our fall conference. I have a board meeting in 2 days that I'm planning for. I have about 9 events that I'm planning for in April and May. So I have 1,000 things going on, but I need to know if someone calls me and says this, or my executive director calls me into his office and says, Megan, where are you at with MNPA? Where are you at for training workshop we have coming up? That I can actually tell him, and that I'm not fumbling for what I'm looking for. I have some, what do you want to call it, tips to prepare you guys for the real world and to help you guys prepare for it. Internships are very, very important. If you can get them in college, if it's part of required to graduate, summer internships are important. Paid, unpaid, sometimes unpaid ones you learn a lot more at. Because if you're getting paid to do it, they don't necessarily always want you to learn as much. They know you're going to get paid for it and you'll move on. Networking is very, very important. Face-to-face networking, LinkedIn is great. If you can go to any events that are held at your school, career fairs, those are very, very important. Networking nowadays is more important than anything you can do, and it's a foot in the door with a lot of positions. Alumni is great. Keeping in touch with alumni. If alumni has events, you want to go to those events and meet them. If you have friends or family that work or used to go to school here or anything like that, you want to keep in touch with them because it can help you a lot too. Extracurricular involvement in school. When I was in college, I was my cheer captain for 3 years while I was at school. I played ice hockey at school for 2 years. I worked in my admissions office for 4 years. I participated in the Kids to College program for 3 years where I actually taught a 6th grade class. And then in that, I was the yearbook editor at my school, the president of my criminal justice club. And everyone knew me at school. Students did, professors did. I was always getting asked to do different things at school, which is great. It's great to build a resume. Depending on what the things are, I did a lot of public speaking in college. It makes you a lot more comfortable with presenting in front of people, getting your name out there so people know who you are. I've been asked to go back to my school multiple times and speak since I've graduated. I've run into many of my professors since then in all different places, and they all are very excited to see how great that I'm doing and always asking about different people that I went to school with and if I have any insight or changes that I would make to any programs that they did. Doing research for your interviews. That means research for the company you're going to be interviewing with, but also preparing yourself. I actually did take a class when I was at college that was called PDS, Professional Development Seminar. And our senior year, the whole class was all about interviewing. And all you did every single week was you had to do a mock interview in front of your whole entire class, where you were the interviewer 1 week, and the next week you would be the interviewee. And we got graded on it, of how you did an interview. And if you were answering the question the interviewee thought the proper way, and if you were prepared for it, dressed for it the right way, if you were fumbling with your words, things to help you improve. The class was one of the best things that I ever did, and it helped me a lot for the real world and preparing for an interview. Dressing professionally, you always want to look professional. Less can be more. You don't want to go over the top with a lot of jewelry, makeup, very, very flashy things. It looks better to keep to basic colors and things when you're going on an interview, so it's not distracting to the person that's interviewing you. And lastly, this is very, very important. Thinking before you speak, but speaking. If you have things so prepared that you sound like a robot, it's not good when you're interviewing because the person can't actually figure out you, the personality you have, what you actually want to accomplish, and it seems very scripted. But if they ask you a question and you sit there and you don't have any kind of answer because you don't know what to say, that doesn't look good either. So you want to make sure that it's something you've thought about, but the answers are actually coming from your heart of like what you want to say. And that's also a big tip for when you are in the real world, when you're at meetings and if your boss ever says to you, Jim, what do you think of this? If you sit there and say nothing, he's going to think you're not paying attention. So he wants you to say something, but don't say something that has nothing to do with the conversation that you're having. And then when you guys have arrived in the real world, these tips are very, very important, and I can say these things I've all learned firsthand. And if I didn't know a lot of these things, I wouldn't be where I was today. And I have some friends that are my age that don't listen to these things that I tell them, and they can't figure out why they can't get out of the box that they're in. Don't have a know-it-all mentality. I'm only 25 years old, and I know nothing to compare to what my bosses know people that are older than me in the real world know. And if I had a know-it-all mentality, I wouldn't be where I am today. You need to learn from people that have been around more than you. These people have been around the block. These people are known in what they're doing, and you can learn a lot from them. And if you have a know-it-all mentality, you're closing so many doors, and you're not going to be able to experience life and get to where you want to be in life. So be very open-minded, take things in. Using the resources you have around you. That can mean that the person that may have had your position before you, hoping that they were organized, hoping that they kept track of things, you would be able to look back and say, so you're not going and asking so many questions that it's so overwhelming that you can look back and find certain things out for yourself. If there's different websites that you can go on to, if you need to figure things out, catering and things like that, thousands of websites to go on. If you're trying to get price quotes, calling up, for me, it would be calling up the newspaper industry and saying to them, hey, I can't get in touch with so-and-so, but can you let me know who is now the editor of this department? Using things around you before you just jump the gun and go and ask someone next to you. Learning from your colleagues. You want to learn from them. Again, embrace that they're there. Try to get to know them. It will make work a lot more pleasant. Asking questions, but not the same questions over and over. This is another very, very important thing. When you're new in a position, they want you to ask questions because it means that you're eager to learn things. And they don't mind answering those questions for you, but make sure you're retaining the answers that they're asking you. Because once you've asked the same question 9 times, they get very tired of giving you the same answer over and over, because then it just kind of seems that all it's doing is going in one ear and out the other ear, and then you're not retaining any information, you're not actually growing in your position. So those are key too, that when you do ask questions, if it's something you think you might forget, go write it down. Go type it into a sheet maybe you have on your computer that's on your folder. It might be on your desktop that says like easy questions or things that I might forget all the time. It could be like sizes of ads. If some newspapers have different procedures when you're sending things to them, going and putting that in there. With me, a lot of the companies that I work with, for example, Gatehouse Media, they own about 300 newspapers in New England. So someone could call me up and say, for example, the Metro West Daily News. One person could call me up and say, I work for Metro West Daily News. Someone else could call me up and say, I work for Gatehouse, when they actually work for the same paper. So, for example, I want to put that into my spreadsheet to say, Gatehouse Media is Metro West Daily News. So I'm not going and asking someone the next time, well, why did Metro West call me and say to me that they're Metro West and someone else told me that they're Gatehouse New England? Because the answer is going to be they're the same thing. And that gets repetitive when you're saying the same thing over and over. Learning from mistakes. The only way you're ever going to get better at what you're doing is learning from your mistakes. That doesn't mean that you're doing things wrong. It just means that the way that you thought you needed to do it may have not actually been the right way, but now you know for next time what to do. Constructive criticism is your best friend. If your boss, your colleagues, or anything are never telling you they're doing anything wrong or how ways to improve, it means that they don't see you going anywhere in your career. When they're giving you constructive criticism, that means that they see you going places and that they want to make you a better person. So if someone does give you constructive criticism, embrace that and learn from it and make the changes that you need to change, because they're going to make you better at what you're doing, they're going to make your company look better, and they're going to help you later down the line. And that's one thing that a lot of people, it's really, really hard for them to take in. But it's because they care and it's because they want you to succeed in what you're doing. Not having a 9-to-5 mindset. If you're on salary, that might mean that you work 40 hours a week. But the chances that you're going to actually work 40 hours a week coming in from 9 o'clock in the morning and leaving exactly 5 o'clock in the afternoon are very, very slim. You need to stay there until you get the job done. If I have an event that's going on, if I go to work at 9 and I leave at 5 o'clock, and my event's in 2 days and I have nothing done for it, I can't go home. I have to make sure it gets done. And it might mean putting in more hours, but you're going to see what your event turns out like. You're going to see how many people enjoy it, and it makes it okay, and all that hard work that you've done, it makes up for it. And that is one really, really big thing. A lot of times now, with a lot of companies, they ask you, well, what do you think salary means? And if you say coming in at 9 o'clock in the morning and leaving at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it's a big turnoff to a lot of people, because that means that you want to be a career person, you want to have a salary, you want to work and have that mindset, but you're stuck in being an hourly employee. So you have to decide what you want to do there. Staying involved with alumni. Again, great for networking, the people that you're going to be meeting, the places you're going to be going. I bump into people that I went to college with all the time at different events and things, and they're like, oh my God, what are you up to? It's just great to stay in touch with them, staying connected with them, going to alumni events that your school puts on. And then I said, owning and embracing your role in your organization. That is a very, very big thing. You need to own what you do at the company that you do it for. And if you mess something up, you need to own that and say, I made a mistake, I'm going to make these changes and do it the next time. If you don't own it, it kind of makes it seem like it's wishy-washy of exactly what you want. And that's all I have. Thank you very much for having me. I will do a question and answer.
So questions?
My name is Chelsea Curley. I guess my question is, what is the biggest factor that you say would have contributed to such big success at such a young age?
That I'm such a driven person. A big thing with me has been that no matter what it takes to get where I want to be, I'm going to do what it takes to get there. I have like big goals for myself, and I'm not going to stop until I get to where I want to be. And you can't settle with what you're doing. I love where I'm at, and I know that there's going to be big things that are going to happen with me, but I know that there's a lot that I need to learn to get there. So don't ever hold back, and if you have dreams, you do what you have to take to get there.
I'm not sure the organization has an intern, but what do you look for in an intern? Do you think that they should have experience before coming into as an intern? What do you want them to do?
We do work with interns. It's on a case-by-case basis. And it's not necessarily what you know. A person can know a lot of things. And this is, for example, they can know a lot about event planning, and if they have a mindset of doing something one way, it can be really, really hard to retrain them to do it a different way. So a big thing with us is that when we're looking for an intern or looking for that right employee, it's what are the bases that they have, or what are the skills that they have? Do they have what it takes for us to teach them? So that's a big thing, is the skills. How you can get there. Do you have organizational skills? Are you creative? What do you see yourself doing? What path do you want to go down? Are you an open-minded person? Next question.
So how did you get from psychology to public relations? And you and I talked briefly about this, and I'm a huge fan of not just thinking because you major in something or you concentrate in something that's necessarily where you'll end up. But I imagine your psychology degree plays, a good part in how successful you are.
So I went to school for psychology and undergraduate degree in it. And I actually specialized in behavioral psychology. I wanted to actually end up becoming a psychiatrist and working at a hospital with psychiatric patients. But so after I graduated, when I started working for 5 Hour, there was a big marketing aspect of it. And having a psychology degree, I see things from a different perspective, and I think a lot more about the person and what people are visually going to see, what people visually think of. And that helps me a lot with thinking outside of the box. It was one thing that my old boss at 5 Hour really liked about me, that he could put me in the same room with someone who had a degree in marketing, and our responses to things and the campaign that we might be doing would be very, very, very different, because I would see things from a person's perspective and what they were thinking in their head and what triggers what triggers people have. And then when I've gotten to event planning, it helps me even more now. Because I also see too with people get frustrated, and if things aren't going the way that they want them to an event, and it's something we have going on, that I've been able to actually, help them a little bit and give them like soothing comments and not counseling, but calming them down so they're not gonna lose it and go over the top. But I've also been able to use psychology too in a lot of what I've been doing. Again, it goes back to what people want and what people are thinking and what is going to attract them. Yes.
I wonder if you have any examples of a disaster that you had concerning special events, what you did, how you thought it would be to correct the disaster.
So this past February, actually, we ordered a new printer. We do all of our motion and collateral in-house. It's all done. And we had ordered a new printer, and it wasn't tested before event in the sense of how many pieces of paper it prints per minute, how many prints double-sided. So when it actually came down to the event, we normally start printing stuff 2 weeks out, which is what we did this year. It prints things a lot slower. So where if we had to print 400 pieces of paper that was double-sided, last year it would have taken 4 hours. This year it would have taken 8 hours. And we print probably 10,000 pieces of paper for this event. So it pushed our timeline back a lot. So we arrived to our event on Thursday, and it starts on, I arrived there, on Tuesday. The workshops start Thursday, the main event starts Friday. I have a whole scheduling plan, staffing plan that goes out, and my whole staff is there all weekend. Due to all of the printing not being done, I had to change my whole entire staffing plan on Wednesday. Our graphic designer, actually, who comes to our event, had to stay at our office that Wednesday, Thursday, and didn't come down until Friday afternoon, which meant that she also does photography work. She wasn't there to do any of our photos for a day and a half. So I actually bring a freelance photographer to do that. What that also meant, though, is our accountant, who is also our business manager, who comes down to the event on Thursday, who helps me set up a ton of the registration, making sure room sets are done properly, name badges are set up right, all of the stuff that go into registration packets that she wasn't going to be there because she had to help finish stuff up at the office. So we had to pretty much Thursday night at 3 in the morning when she got to the event, we had to finish up a ton of stuff so we were ready to go at 7 o'clock in the morning. And then when she arrived, we had to switch stuff up that I had for staffing. I had 2 girls that always help out with raffles that we do. They assist me with a ton of my table setups and things, and I actually just shipped them to have them help out at registration this year. So our event went off without any flaws, and so no one that was coming knew that we were having all of these disasters in the background.
If you had majored in if you had majored in PR, marketing, development, anything like that, where would you have wanted to intern as a student?
That's a good question. There's actually a company called Switch, Liberator Brand, and they are based out of Missouri. They do have satellite offices. But I think that's where I would have wanted to intern because they have many different pieces of it where they do brand campaigns that I think would have gotten to take part in the actual branding and seeing the brand campaign come together. They take care of the press side of a lot of things. Again, I think I would have had the options of working with many different clients at once. That's one thing with me that I think that if I worked with one company, that I would get bored doing the same things for this one company, setting up press releases that are going to be different products that they have, brand campaigns, planning the same events. I like that I'm always being Yes.
This is a fun question. So it's a fun question. Have you come across any major ethical issues that you've been planning or deliberations into being part of?
Since I've been in my job, I haven't. I work with a lot of lawyers and things too. So I think that's a big part of why I haven't. because they take, with every group that I have, we have a lawyer that's present at all times. And so all of those things, before I even started, were taken care of when all of these boards came about. So it's just, with them, it's the same thing. We'll be doing the same events, but it's always different decor and things. I do know, though, that one of our boards, the Newtown shootings, we played a big part in that, and setting up press releases for that, meeting with like the state lieutenant and things. And from all of that, there's been a lot of debate on if the children's records should get released and should be public information. And that was a big issue on our board that we had to debate. Because I see it from both sides of their children and things, and the pictures are horrific, and it was such a sad event that happened. But if they weren't children, there'd be no debate on them getting released to the public. So that's been a big ethical issue that I've sat in many debates about. It's actually going to the Supreme Court, so they can decide what they're going to do with it, because it's considered crime scene footage, which does, in the end, end up getting released. With the Boston Marathon bombing, we took part in that, but we didn't have as much of a presence in that, in the sense of having photos released, because that was a big part of having to make sure that all of the people in the newspaper we work with were okay. We had a couple of photographers that have received awards received Pulitzer Prizes, and we had the photographer of the year actually who shot some marathon bombing photos. And it's such a sad event, but to see these people that are going and putting their lives on the line to get pictures of this is very heroic. And we had to take part in a lot of that, of sending up follow-ups and answering a lot of phone calls and questions about that.
I was just wondering what you think your favorite part or aspect of your job is. Like, do you like the PR side of it more, or the event planning?
I like both parts, but if I had to pick, it would definitely be event planning. I love planning events. I hope one day that I own my own event planning company, that I specialize in weddings and like private events, birthdays, and things. I do freelance things now, but that's like in the end is like what I hope that I do. I think I have time for one more question. Yeah. Did you have any internships in college, and where were they? I did have internships in college. They had nothing to do with event planning at all, though. In college, I used to lifeguard at a camp in Waltham, and then I actually started working with GWalk, which is special needs children, and I interned there for 2 summers. And then after that, my dad actually founded a charity for domestic violence victims, so I used to help about that.
All right, so let's give Megan a round of applause.